So h is equal to 0. So finally the degree of freedom is 3, 8 minus 1 minus 2 j. So it is, I think, 21 minus 18. So I am getting it as 3. So let me verify. Okay. So you got 1, right? Okay, let me count it again. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think we are missing one joint somewhere, right? So it
Sir,
should
won't
be
this be fifth one be 2R because it's connecting to three linkages, 4, 6, 4,
right,
8,
right,
and
right, right. So with this one, right? I think yeah. So this is 3, and this link is 4. This is 5. Yeah, correct. So this will be 2R actually, right? Sorry, right? So now here this j should be equal to 10. So is this clear to all of you? Why I took 2R here? So because here 3 links are connected. Link 3, then this is slider link 4, and then this link 5. So 3 links are connected at this particular point. So that's why we are taking here as 2R. Right? So j will be equal to 10. So I am sorry. Finally, the degree of freedom of this mechanism should be equal to 1. So now let us try to solve this one. Okay, fine. So the number of links here is simply, it is already counted here. So n is equal to 7. Okay. And what is the value of j? So just tell me in this case, what is the value of j?
8.
8.
8. Okay. So let me count this. 1R. Then this is also 1R. 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 I think this is also 2 links are connected. Here also 2 links are connected. 1R. So here also only 2 links are connected. Fine. So now let us count this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fine. So j is equal to 8. Now, is there any higher pair in this mechanism?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
yes,
So between which two links?
6
6
and
and
3.
3.
6 and
6 and
3.
3. So this is your higher pair. So h is equal to 1. Fine. So now your degree of freedom f is equal to simply 3, 7 minus 1 minus 2 into 8 minus 1. So f is equal to plus 1 in this case also. Right? So now you can very easily guess. So let's say if you tell your input member as link 7, right? So you need to specify the coordinate of only this link, link 7. And the coordinates of, let's say, all other links. Let's say if you describe the motion of this link through some, let's say, coordinate psi, right? So this psi will be dependent upon the motion of this input link, that is theta. So let's say if you define the coordinate of this system as phi, right? So all this phi psi, they will be ultimately dependent upon this value of theta. So that means you need to specify the only coordinate theta for this input link, for this member, okay, to describe the motion of link 6, 5, 3, 4, 1 and 2 in the mechanism, right? So now I hope this is clear to all of you. Now can you tell me what will be the degree of freedom of this one? Okay, so this is something interesting. So let us again count it. So now 1, 2, 3, 4. So how many links are there? It is very easy. N is equal to 4. Now how many, the number of simple pairs, right? So the number of simple pairs, it will be 1R, 1P, 1P, right? Then again 1R, right? So how many simple pairs are there? 4, correct? Now higher pair is equal to 0. So let us apply this. F equal to 3, 4 minus 1 minus 2 into 4 minus 0. Now just tell me here, if you solve this, so what will be the value of f? 9 minus 8, that is plus 1. But if you observe here, the degree of freedom of this mechanism will be equal to 0. So can anyone guess why I am saying the degree of freedom of this mechanism will be equal to 0? Any idea?
Sir,
Minus FR, so it will be 1.
minus FR.
Okay, so that is one case. But how are you going to interpret it physically? So let's say when I say that the degree of freedom of a mechanism is plus 1, right? Then I always say that there will be a unique relationship between the motion of input and output link, right? So let's say if in this mechanism, consider this link 7 as let's say input, and consider this link 5 as output. So if this link, it moves through some angle theta, so there will be unique and distinct motion of this output link 5, right? So if you come to this one, I am already saying the degree of freedom of this mechanism is 0. So I just want to know that how are you going to interpret it physically?
Sir,
Yeah,
so by the motion of link 3, there will be no effect on link 2 and 4,
correct.
as well as on
Right.
1.
So this is one thing you can see that, okay, if this link 3, it is going to move, right, slide with respect to these prismatic pairs, so there will be no effect on the motion of links 2 and 4. So in one way you can see this. Another way to interpret this is, let's say if I am giving some motion to this input link, right, I am transferring some motion to input link. But if you observe, even if I transfer some motion to this input link, no motion will be transferred to the remaining links, that is link 3 or link 4. So what is going to happen? This input link, it will just slide with respect to this link 3, but no motion is being transferred from link 2 to link 3 and then finally to link 4. So finally what is happening? I am transferring the input, but the output is always 0, right? So that's why I am saying the degree of freedom of this mechanism will be equal to 0. So now there is no distinct relationship between input and output. Why? Because whatever angle you make it 30 degree, the output is 0. You make it 40 degree, the output is 0. You make it 50 degree, so the output rotation of this link is 0. So what is happening? So there are existing n number of solutions for this case, right? And we know that in every case the motion of output link will be 0, right? So that is the meaning of distinct and unique relationship. So let's say if I talk of this mechanism, so if here theta is equal to 30 degree, then let's say the output phi is equal to 45 degree. If theta is equal to, let's say, 45 degree, then phi will be something equal to 60 degree. So if you observe, there is always a unique relationship between the rotation or let's say oscillation of input and output links. Here this unique relationship, it is going to be disappeared, right? So here whatever you do, whatever the value of input link oscillation of this input link, that is 30, 40, 50, the output oscillation will be always 0, right? So we already know the degree of freedom of this mechanism is 0. So here, just to take this factor into account, we already know that this is one redundant degree of freedom, right? So if this is redundant degree of freedom, then FR is equal to 1. And finally, if FR is equal to 1, so this would be minus 1, right? And finally, the degree of freedom of this mechanism will be equal to C. So is the physical interpretation clear to all of you? Any doubt in that case? So
Hello,
see,
sir. I have one doubt.
yeah. Ask.
Sir, in this question, that if we remove the two, if we do anything on the second and fourth link, there wouldn't be any interpretation on the third. So wouldn't the FR should be equal to 2, because 2 and 4 both links are not imparting any motion to third link.
Right. So that's why the degree of freedom is 0. Because see, when we talk of, let's say, the degree of freedom, so the focus is primarily on the input and output link, right? So here definitely the link 2 will be acting as an input link and link 4 will be acting as an output link, right? So since no motion is being transferred to the output, right? There is no motion which is being transferred to the output. But remember that the link 2 is still moving. It is not that the link 2 is also not moving. If let's say you fix the link 2 also, then it will become a structure, right? So the link 2 is moving, but what is happening? no motion is being transferred to the links 3 and 4. So that's why the degree of freedom of this mechanism is 0, right? So, but still remember one very important point here, that this is not behaving as a structure. Generally, we call that, okay, if the degree of freedom is 0, then we call this thing as a structure, right? So although the degree of freedom is 0, but still we should see that in a structure, none of the links move, right? But when we talk of a mechanism, right? When we talk of a mechanism, we say a very important thing, right? We always talk of relative motion. We don't talk of individual motions, right? So when we consider the relative motion, so we see there the relative motion between links 3, 4, right? Between links 2, 3, they are going to be disappeared. So that's why this mechanism, we can presume that it is almost behaving like a structure, right? So is it clear? So did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Sir, just one doubt. Can't we consider 2 and 4 both as an input link? If I give motion to both of that
No, no,
link,
no, no. No. This is not feasible, right? How are you going to consider both the links as input, right? So I think this will not be practical in this
okay,
case,
sir.
right? Okay, so let us move ahead. See, the reason for that, let's say, like, if I remove this redundant degree of freedom, so the degree of freedom, it can turn out to be equal to 1. So how many links they will be treated as input links, it depends upon, let's say, the degree of freedom, right? So let's say if I remove this, all this, I apply the simple Kirchhoff equation, I got the degree of freedom as 1, right? So from here I conclude that only one link can be considered as input link. So if it turn out to be 2, right, then it could happen that I can go for 2 links. Maybe like I can specify the coordinate for this one and this one also. Then only I will be able to describe the motion of other links, right? So then in that case, I can consider that, okay, this link 6, 7 could be acting as input links, right? But here, since if I simply apply the Kirchhoff equation, I got some preliminary idea, right? That, okay, only one link could be treated as input. Right? So that's why. So finally, after that, like, I applied all this redundant degree of freedom analysis, and then I got it. Okay, now let's move ahead. So can you solve this? I think this is very simple problem. The only thing you observe here, the only thing is they have changed the structure or shape of links, right? So now they have actually tried to bring a realistic view of the let's say 4-bar mechanism or this thing. So in that case, in this case, you can very easily calculate. So will it be possible for all of you to calculate this one? This is very easy, right? So I think try it yourself. I will upload the PPT. So just take this and try it yourself, right? So all these are very simple. So now let us talk of something like, let's say, like some realistic examples. So here also, what you are seeing here, this is the kinematic representation of a basically variable stroke prompt. So I'm not going to calculate the degree of freedom for this, right? Because this is very easy. You all can do, right? So it's simply link 1, link 2, then link 3. So you can all do it yourself. Very easy, right? So only thing of which I am interested to tell that this is how the let's say the mechanisms in actual situation, in realistic situations, they are represented. So basically, if let's say you have a mechanism in actual situation, right? And if you are interested to analyze it, right? So generally we convert this into kinematic diagram before analyzing. So the kinematic diagram, it will be very useful when we are going to study, let's say, the velocity and acceleration analysis. So this is nothing. This is just called as kinematic representation of a variable stroke form. So now let us move forward. So what you observe here, can anyone tell what is this? Any guesses? So see,
Screw
one
jack.
word is written here, hood. Okay. So just tell me, like, okay, it is hood, but a hood of, let's say, which component, or let's say which machine? Can anyone
Hand
guess?
pump. Hand pump.
No, no, no. So this is the previous one. This one was actually hand pump. This was something similar to headphone. Okay, but let's talk about this. What is this? So see, this is basically automobile hood. Okay, so do you know what is an automobile hood?
No, sir.
Okay, so see, automobile hood is nothing. The front part of your car, that is called as automobile hood. So you just raise this hood, right? And you can see all the engine, the radiator, all other components lying in the, let's say, like base of that car, right? So the front part or the door which you can lower and raise, right? And you can actually change if, let's say, like you need some replacement of the part, or let's say engine part, or if you wish to, let's say, cool your car, pour down some water, so you can simply raise this hood and you can perform your duties, right? So that is basically called as automobile hood. Now this is the actual representation. Now generally this automobile hood, it is a very good example of this kinematic mechanism. So here you can observe that while we open the hood, open this door, right? So here very easy, you can observe, model this as a kinematic diagram. So see this link 1, it is modeled here as a fixed link, right? Because it is fixed to the frame of the car. Then again this link 2, this is modeled as a ternary link. You can very easily observe here. So right, and these two links, you can observe they are connected by pin joints. So these pin joints are basically called as revolute pairs, right? Because they are just allowing the relative rotation between these two links, right? Then similarly, you can model this link as 3. And finally, you can model the door itself, right? Or the hood. So the door or the hood itself as link 4, fine. And then you can model this as link 5. So this is just, I am trying to convey that how can you convert actual machine or an actual situation into a kinematic diagram before analyzing it, right? So again, once you convert it into a kinematic diagram, it is very easy to calculate the degree of freedom. So now the degree of freedom I am leaving to you. Try it yourself. Now it is very easy. You can very easily count the number of revolute pairs and all those, and you can calculate the degree of freedom, right? So this is how generally this joint is called as pin joint, right? So most of the time the revolute pairs are actually pin joints, right? Now let us move to this one. So can anyone just tell me what is this?
Excavator arm.
Excavator, right? So generally if you observe that excavators or JCB cranes, they are very huge in size. So this is also similar to excavator, but generally it is called as front loader, right? So it is slightly smaller in size as compared to the excavator. So now, but the mechanism is same. The entire mechanism for excavator and all these things are same. So this is the actual situation if you observe here, right? So if you observe here, this is the actual situation. So we all know, I think if you observe excavator very carefully, then we all know that this hydraulic arrangement, it plays a crucial role in the, let's say, operation of excavator, correct? So now all this is modeled something like this. So you can see that this entire link from here to here, this is modeled as a, let's say, like quaternary link, right? Now if you very carefully observe, so here this is one pin joint, so this is one pin joint, then this is your hydraulic actuator, right? So this hydraulic actuator, definitely in a hydraulic actuator, what you have a cylinder and a piston arrangement, fine. So this can be represented something like this. Now you can observe here this hydraulic actuator, it is pin jointed here at this location. Very carefully observe. So again, you can pin joint it here, and this is the frame of the front loader, right? So this frame is definitely fixed, right? Now, if we move on this side, so again we have a hydraulic actuator at this location. If you observe here, so this is again your hydraulic actuator. Now again you can represent this with this piston cylinder arrangement. Now all other connections that has been represented here, right? So here one connection is here, similar one connection is on the other side. So now you can similarly model this one as this thing, right? So it is very clearly shown here that how can you represent an actual situation through the help of a kinematic diagram. Now I am leaving to you to calculate the degree of freedom of this mechanism. But let me guess, like what could be the possible degree of freedom for this mechanism? So let's say like I am not running any 3n minus 1 2j analysis. But what
No,
is
sir.
your
3.
The degree of freedom will be 3 for this front loader.
I think it's 2.
So,
Sir, 2.
so just try to calculate this using Kajbek criteria. But as far as like my opinion is, I think the degree of freedom of this mechanic should be equal to 1, right? So just this is just maybe my imagination. I might be wrong also, right? Because ultimately, when we run the analysis, then only we know that what would be the actual degree of freedom. But based on my interpretation, I assume that the degree of freedom of this mechanic should be equal to 1, because ultimately we know that this output, it has to move in a distinct way when we transfer motion to the input. So let's say if I consider this link 4 as my input, right? Because ultimately the power would be transferred to, let's say, this quaternary link 4, right? Then after that, from that, the motion will be transferred to other links, that is link 3, link 5, all other links, right? So I think this shovel, which is your output, and this quaternary link, which could be your possible input, they should move in a, let's say, unique relationship. So they should move in a unique fashion. So they should possess a distinct relationship, right? So in that way, I can interpret maybe the possible degree of freedom of this mechanism should be equal to 1, but I'm not sure. So this is just my interpretation. Right? Now, just calculate it and try it. So now again, if you remember in the, let's say, first session, I showed you the video of a cross plier. So again, this is your locking plier. So this is your actual kinematic situation. And now again, you can represent a locking pair through a kinematic diagram. So this is very important example. Maybe sometimes it is directly asked in many interviews that whether a locking pair is like 4-bar kinematic chain, or it is let's say 6-bar kinematic mechanism or something like that. So ultimately, if you observe very carefully, if you model this locking pair, right? If you model this locking pair, so these are the kinematic diagrams which have been shown sequentially. So finally, you will find out that a locking pair is nothing. It is just a 4-bar kinematic mechanism, right? So it consists of 4 links which are connected by revolute pair. So we all know that the degree of freedom of this mechanism will be equal to 1, right? Now, so these are certain examples which I showed you just to keep your interest, let's say, like if so that you can relate it to the actual situations also, right? So all these diagrams usually in examination, maybe mostly these kind of questions they are asked, maybe in GATE, and if you go for engineering services. So mostly they don't give this realistic examples. They just provide you this kinematic diagrams, right? So what I showed you before. So they will just give you this kinematic diagrams to solve, right? But ultimately, you as an engineer, you should know like how to model the actual situation, actual machines through kinematic diagrams. Right? Now let us move ahead. So let us end this degrees of freedom session, and let us move ahead with a very important discussion. Okay, so let me share another presentation. Okay. So now let us come to next topic of discussion. So see, this is going to be very important topic. So from the conceptual point of view, there are so many concepts involved into this one, right? So now we will discuss specifically this 4-bar kinematic chain and its inversions. So now this will be the center of our discussion. So what is a 4-bar kinematic chain? In very simple words, you can say a 4-bar kinematic chain, it consists of 4 links. So we all know many times I have mentioned this term, right? 4-bar kinematic chain. So a 4-bar kinematic chain is nothing. These is a chain which consists of 4 links connected in the form of a quadrilateral by revolute joints. So it's very easy to guess that now we have 4 links like this. Right? So we have 4 links like this, and this is your 4-bar kinematic chain, right? So why right now I'm calling it as a kinematic chain? Because none of the links is fixed, right? So this is a closed kinematic chain. You can name it as, let's say, 1, 2, 3. So let's finally move ahead and let's discuss kinematic inversion. What is this? Right? So kinematic inversion. Okay, so just tell me, how many mechanisms can I construct from this kinematic 4-bar chain? How many mechanisms is possible to be constructed from this 4-bar chain? Can anyone answer? See, how do we obtain a mechanism? When we fix one of the link. So how many mechanisms can we obtain from this 4-bar kinematic chain? Just tell me.
4.
4. So how? Can you explain?
Sir, if we fix the link which is connected to the 1 and 2, there is 1 point. Then after 2, then the 1, 2, and 3, if we connect to the ground or means if we join something,
Right.
if we fix that, then it is second. After
Right.
on the left, on the right side, it is third, and below it's fourth.
Yeah. So it's very easy. So if you fix the link 1, right? Definitely you will get 1 mechanism. If you fix the link 2, then again you will get 1 more mechanism. If you fix the link 3, you will get 1 more mechanism. If you fix the link 4, then you will get 1 more mechanism. So total number of mechanisms that can be obtained from this 4-bar closed kinematic chain is 4, right? So what is kinematic inversion? So from here it comes the definition of kinematic inversion. So kinematic inversion is simply different mechanisms obtained by fixing different links of a kinematic chain. Very important. So it's very easy that such type of mechanisms which are obtained by fixing the different links of a kinematic chain, they are called as inversion. Right? Now, we are going to discuss a very important terminology, Grashoff's kinematic chain. Grashoff's kinematic chain and its inversions, right? So this is very important, very important thing, right? So you have to remember this and its inversion. So what is first of all a Grashoff kinematic chain, right? So generally, if you try to connect these 4 links in the form of a quadrilateral, right? So generally some rules must be satisfied. It is not like that okay, you can connect it in a random fashion. So what rules must be satisfied? So generally the length of the links, it is going to put a constraint on the connection, right? So let me ask you, let's say if the length of link 1, right, it is greater than the length of link 2 plus link 3 plus link 4, right? So will it be possible to form a 4-bar chain? Just think about it.
No, sir.
It will be not possible, right? because obviously means you what you will where you will be stuck. So let's say if the length of this link 1 it is greater than the sum of all other 3 links, so this link 4 it will become impossible to connect it to the link 1, right? So this revolute pair will not be able to be formed, right? So now there must be some constraints, and those constraints they are basically initiated by the length of the links, right? So in such cases we use a 4-bar chain which is called a Grashoff's kinematic chain. So now what is a Grashoff's kinematic chain? Let me define it. So a 4-bar chain, 4-bar chain in which the sum of the lengths of shortest and largest links is less than the sum of the lengths of remaining 2 links, correct? So let me explain this one. Just go. Okay, so let me sorry for the interruption. So now let us start. Okay, so let me explain this. What is a Grashoff kinematic chain? So let's say in 4-bar chain, L min is the length of shortest link. Okay, and L max is the length of longest link. Now this should be less than equal to L prime plus L double prime. So this is what, this is the length of remaining 2 links, right? So you can very easily see here, let's say this is your situation, right? So let's say this is your shortest link L min, right? And this is your longest link L max, right? And this is your L prime, L double prime, right? So if a 4-bar chain, it satisfies this criteria, that chain will be called as Grashoff's kinematic chain. Very important. So in that case, we call that 4-bar chain as a Grashoff's kinematic chain. So what happens? Let's say like if we arrange all these links in this fashion, so what is the output? What is the purpose of doing this? So let us see this. So see, the purpose is to obtain different kinematic inversions, right? So now let us talk of Grashoff's kinematic chain inversions. Now first is crank rocker. Okay. So I will come to this, what is meant by this crank rocker. Okay. So what I am going to do right now, the link adjacent to the shortest link is fixed, right? So the link adjacent to the shortest link is fixed. So let me represent this. I'm sorry, let me draw it again. Okay. So now in this case, if you observe, okay, so let me call this as L min, right? Let me call this one possibly as the, okay. Or let me simply call it as A, B, C, D. That will be much better, right? So now, if you observe, if we fix this link, if we fix this link, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So here, I'm going to fix the link which is adjacent to the shortest link. So this is your shortest link, right? And shortest link is A. And which link we are going to fix? We are going to fix this link B, right? So
Just one question.
yeah,
Can we fix D as well? Means
yeah.
we can fix also
I'm
linking
coming
B.
to that. I'm coming to that. Okay. So shortest link is A, and we are going to fix the link which is adjacent to the shortest link, right? So let's say I fix the link B. So in such case, what happens? In such cases, we obtain a mechanism which is called as a crank rocker mechanism, right? So what is a crank rocker mechanism? This is very important, right? Many times you might have heard this word crank, right? So when we call a link as a crank, right? So here in this case, what is going to happen? Link A, it acts as a crank, right? So what do you mean by a crank? That means a link which makes complete rotation, or you can say complete revolution, right? Through 360-degree, right? So in this case, what is going to happen? This link A, it is going to move through 360-degree. That is, it is going to make a computation, right? Now, what will be happening to the motion of other links, right? So see here, very important. So basically, we are interested in input and output. So this link A, it is going to act as an input link, and it will be called as a crank. Now the output link C, right? The link C will be your output link. Now this link C, it is going to act as a rocker, or we call it as lever also. So what is a rocker or a lever, right? So a rocker or lever, it is nothing. So link which oscillates, right? And it doesn't make a complete rotation, right? Very important. So the link which just only oscillates and doesn't make a complete rotation, that is called as a rocker. Now what is link D? What is link D, right? So that means this link C, which is your output link, it is going to act as a rocker, and it will just oscillate through, let's say, certain angle theta or something like that. So it will just oscillate, right? Now what about link D, right? So now link D is generally called as coupler link, right? Very important. So link D is called as coupler. So right now we generally don't focus too much on the motion of link D. We are primarily interested into the motion of input and output links. So the link A, that is going to act as a crank, and it is going to make a complete rotation. And link C, that will be going to act as a rocker or lever. So a rocker or lever, it will just oscillate. It will not make a complete rotation. So 360-degree. Like then link D, it is called as coupler. So what is a coupler? So as the name suggests, the job of a coupler is just to couple the input and output links, right? So generally the link opposite to the fixed link, very important, the link opposite to the fixed link is called as coupler. So you have to keep these terminologies into your mind. Many times they will be asked, right? So which is crank, which is rocker, which is coupler. So all these terminologies you have to keep into your mind, right? So generally this rocker, it is also called as lever, right? Or sometimes we call this mechanism as a rotary oscillatory type mechanism, right? So rotary means the crank is making a full complete rotation, and oscillatory means the rocker is just oscillating. So this is one inversion of Greshoff's kinematic chain. So a very important thing you need to remember, that this is possible only when you have a Greshoff's kinematic chain. Otherwise, it is not feasible, right? So what is a Grashof kinematic chain? The kinematic chain in which the length of shortest and longest link is less than the sum of length of remaining two links, right? Now, let us move ahead. So, okay, sorry. So one of the student asked, like, what happens if we fix the link D, right? So yes, that is also another inversion, right? So again, let us take the same mechanism. So now what are we going to do? Now, instead of fixing this B, I'm going to fix this link D. So again, this is A, B, C, D. Okay. So just in this case, tell me which link is going to act as a crank. Tell me this thing. So which link is going to act as a crank?
So link A itself.
Okay. So link A itself is going to act as a crank. Now in this case, which will be acting as a rocker?
C.
Rocker is link C, good. And which will be acting as a coupler?
B.
B. B.
So now this is very easy to guess, right? Now let us move to, that means we obtained two inversions here, correct? So two inversions are obtained, and both of these two inversions, they are what? Crank, rocker. So they have been put under the category of crank rocker mechanism. Now let us move ahead and talk about another kind of inversion. So double crank. Before going to double crank, let us talk about double rocker. Now, double rocker. So in this case, what we are doing, link opposite to the shortest link is fixed, right? So in this case, we fix the link which is opposite to the shortest link. So again, let us draw this mechanism. Right? So A, B, C, D, right? Now I'm saying the link opposite to the shortest link is fixed, right? So this is your shortest link, and which one is the opposite link? The link C, right? So now we are going to fix this link C, correct? So in this case, what is going to happen? See, here, first of all, tell me which will be your input link. So let's say input link, which will be acting as your input link. Can anyone guess? See, simply, yeah, so link B is going to now act as your input link, right? So now here link B will be your input link, and now what could be the possible type of motion for this link B? So will it be just oscillating, or will it be making a complete rotation? So what do you think? What is your opinion? So any guesses? So is it possible that now this link, it can make a complete rotation?
No, sir.
No. So in this case, this link B or input link, it is going to act as a rocker. And now your output link, which will be your output link? Link D will be your output link. Again, this link D, it will be acting as a rocker, right? So that means, let's say if you turn this link B through certain angle B, so this link D, that is also going to turn through certain angle T, right? So in this case, both will be acting as what? rockers, right? And what is your coupler?
A.
Link A, correct. So this is another inversion of a Grashoff's kinematic chain. Very important, right? So four inversions of a, let's say, Grashoff kinematic chain or a 4-bar chain are possible. We know that. So two inversions are basically crank rocker inversions. One is double rocker, and the third inversion I'm not going to discuss, right? So third inversion, let me first save this. So third inversion will be double crank, right? So now just tell me which link will be fixed in this case. See, no, we are not doing anything. We are just fixing all the links one by one. But I am referring every arrangement with respect to the shortest link, because that is actually easier to remember, right? So that's why I am referring every let's say like assembly or every mechanism with this reference to the shortest link, right? So you have to also remember in this way, because this is quite easier. Otherwise I can simply go fix link B, then fix link C, then fix link D, right? But remember this in this way. Now just tell me the link adjacent to the shortest link has already been fixed, right? Now the link which is opposite to the shortest link, that is also already fixed, right? But now just tell me which link is left.
A.
Shortest link.
Right. So here the shortest link itself is fixed. So the shortest link itself is fixed in this case, right? So now okay, so now we are going to fix this shortest link A, B, C, D. Okay, so just tell me your input link will be B, and it will be a crank or rocker. It will be simply a crank. So now when the shortest link is fixed, so what happens? Both the link B and D, right? Now they both are able to make complete rotations. Right? So now input link will be B and it will be a crank. Then output link, again, output link will be, let's say, D, and again it will be a crank. And what will be your coupler? Coupler will be which? So it's very easy, right? So the inversions of a 4-bar chain, if you observe, it's very easy. The only thing which you have to keep into your mind, that which link you are going to fix. Okay, so 4 inversions are now possible. 2 crank rocker inversions, 1 double rocker, 1 double crank. Okay, so I will show you some example also. So just wait, let me finish this topic, then I will show you some animations also. Right now, a very important law from the above discussions, we come to a very important law that is called as Grashoff law. So what is a Grashoff law? Okay, so if you observe, if you wish, right? So, okay, so let me state this. A Grashoff law states that a 4-bar mechanism will have at least one revolving link if the sum of the lengths simply of the largest and shortest links is less than the sum of lengths of other two links. So see, it is the Grashoff law. It is almost similar to the definition of Grashoff kinematic chain. The only thing which is important to point out here, that in Grashoff law we add one more sentence, that a 4-bar mechanism, now we are saying that it will be a mechanism, right? So a 4-bar mechanism will have at least one revolving link, right? So if this is the situation, right? So whatever link you are going to fix, in every case, at least one of the link will be revolving, right? So this is simply the Grashoff's law. So based on about discussion, we can conclude this, right? So let's say if this is the situation, if I fix this link, right? So this link A will be revolving, right? And if you come to this, right? So if you fix, let's say the shortest link itself, then again, this link B and D both revolve. So at least one link is revolving, right? In these two cases, that is in double crank case and in the case of a crank rocker. So this is the Grashoff's law it is trying to convey, nothing else, right? So you have to just remember it as it is, that if this length of largest and shortest link, it is less than the sum of lengths of other two links. So then in that case, the 4-bar mechanism, it will have at least one link which is revolving, right? So this is the Grashoff's law. Now let us move ahead. Let us move ahead and let us then study non-Grashoff kinematic chain. Non-Grashoff kinematic chain and inversions. Okay, so let me finish this. See, the point is right now I am discussing very important concepts. So after that, I will show you some animations. Maybe that will make you these things more clear, and I will give you some applications also of all these inversions. But let us first try to focus on concepts, because concepts are very important. See, application and many things you might get in textbook, but concepts, they are not available everywhere, right? So let us focus on this, then we will go to those things. Now in non-Grashoff kinematic chain, just tell me what is a non-Grashoff kinematic chain? What could be the possible definition of this non-Grashoff kinematic chain?
When the length of the shortest and longest link is greater than other two links.
Right? So now it is simply the reverse of Grashoff kinematic chain. That is, in this case, the sum of shortest and largest link, it will be the greater than the sum of lengths of other two links, right? So now in this case, just tell me what are the possible inversions, right? So inversions, okay, so just tell me what could be the possible inversions of a non-Grashoff kinematic chain. So could it be a crank rocker, or could it be a, let's say, double crank, or could be a rocker? So let's say, so okay, so now if you are fixing, let's say, one of the link, let's say you are fixing the shortest link, right? So in that case, will it be a rocker? So let's say, okay, so let's say I'm going in the same way as I did for the Grashoff kinematic chain. So let's say I'm first fixing the link adjacent to the shortest link, right? So either I'm fixing link B or I'm fixing link C. So what will be the situation in that case? Means, will you obtain a double crank or a double rocker or a crank rocker? What do you think?
Double rocker.
Okay, so in this case, you will obtain a double rocker. Okay, fine. Now let us remove the fixings from here, and let us fix the link opposite to the shortest link, this one. So what will be the situation in this case? So will it be a double rocker again or a double crank? Any idea?
Rockers.
It will be a rocker, double rocker, correct? So see,
Yes, sir.
this is one of the very important difference between a Grashoff kinematic chain and a non-Grashoff kinematic chain. The inversions of a non-Grashoff kinematic chain are all double rocker mechanism, right? So all inversions in this case are double rocker mechanism. And very important thing, see, in the previous case, let me mention one important thing. So according to Grashoff's law, we saw that if the Grashoff criteria is satisfied, right, then at least one link will revolve. So here the link A was revolving in crank rocker case. right? If you come to this here, both B and D, they were revolving, they were making a complete rotation. And if you go to this double rocker case, so here if you observe, here this coupler A, okay, that is also very important. So this coupler A, it makes full rotation, right? So what is happening? At least one link in every case, right? In at least one link is rotating. But when you come to non-Grashof kinematic chain, so very important thing here, what happens? All the links will only oscillate with respect to each other. That means none of the links it is going to make a complete rotation. So all the links, they are going to oscillate with respect to each other. That is very important. Fine. So now this is one more very important concept. Now again, it is possible that all the links will oscillate relative to each other, but it is possible that the angle of oscillation can be more than 180 degree. Very important thing, right? So just remember here, is it possible if you, let's say, go back to this one, Grashof's kinematic chain, is it possible somewhere here that the angle of oscillation, it can be greater than 180 degree? What do you think? Would it be possible here in these cases, for case of a Grashof kinematic chain?
No, sir.
No, right? So see, as the arrangement suggests, or we can easily guess, right? We can very easily guess that for a Grashof kinematic chain, the angle of oscillation, it cannot be greater than 180 degree, right? So what does that mean? What does that mean? So let us see this. So very important thing, not write down here. Let me write down here. Not possible for a Grashof kinematic chain, right? So just remember this. So now what does it mean? That means it's very simple, that rockers in this case can cross the line of frame, right? So let me draw this and explain this through simple diagram. So let's say this is your 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So let's say I'm fixing this shortest link, right? And I know that I'm going to obtain double rocker only. So it doesn't matter like which link I'm fixed. So let us assume that I'm fixing this shortest link, right? So now this link 2 will be your input, right? And it will be a rocker. This link 4, it will also be a rocker. And this link 3, it will be a coupler. But just remember, the rocker, the coupler, both they will be oscillating with relative to each other. None of the links is going to make a complete rotation. So what do you mean by the rockers can cross the line of frame? That means these rocker, right? If the angle of oscillation is greater than 180 degree, so these rockers, so basically this is your line of frame. Line of frame means the line of fixed links, nothing else, right? So now these rockers, they can cross this line of frame and they can acquire a new position somewhere here. So is it clear? Is it clear what is meant by this term, rockers can cross the line of frame? So simply the angle of oscillation is more than 180 degree. That means rockers can cross the fixed link. So this is not possible in a Grashof's kinematic chain. There you will find the rockers, they will oscillate always either below or either above this fixed link, but they are not going to cross the line of frame, right? So now okay, so now there must be there is one more important thing which you have to remember, right? So there exists only one mode of assembly, or you can say one independent mode of assembly. Now, what is meant by this? What is meant by this? So this simply means that the mechanism can be driven from one configuration to, this is very important, very important thing, right, to its mirror image configuration. So what does this mean? Okay, so let us go back to the previous diagram. See, simply, since the angle of oscillation is more than 180 degree, right? So what can happen? It can happen that these rockers, they cross the line of frame. So let's say this is moving in this way, right? In this direction, this is also moving in this direction. And after some time, they cross this line of frame and they acquire a new position. Like this. They acquire a new position like this. Now, this new position, this is just mirror image of this previous position, right? So now the two configurations which are above and below the line of frame, they are almost similar, right? They are similar in arrangement, they are mirror image of each other, right? And that's why we say that there exists only one mode of assembly. That means if you disconnect all the links and if you assemble either below the frame or above the frame, so let's say with respect to time, if these links they are going to move, so whatever configuration they are going to acquire, this will be referred to as, let's say, mirror image configuration, and you will always say that only one mode of assembly is existing. So is it clear? So let's say let me make this thing more clear. What do you mean by one mode of assembly, right? So let's say if you talk it of a Grashoff's kinematic chain. So let's say I assembled a Grashoff's kinematic chain in this way, right? So I assembled in this way. So this is, let's say, mode 1, right? Now again, I assembled the Grashoff's kinematic chain in a similar way, but below this. So this is your mode 2. So what do you mean by mode 1, mode 2? That means here all the links, they have a distinct motion or a different motion as compared to the assembly here, right? So all the links, they are going to have a distinct or a different motion, right? So that means if you want to switch from mode 1 to mode 2, that means you have to disassemble all these components, right? You have to disassemble and then you have to reassemble, right? So if you want to switch, then first of all, you have to disassemble all the links or disconnect all the links, then reconnect all the links. Then only it is possible to switch from mode 1 to mode 2. So if your chain is Grashoff's kinematic chain, right? But if it is non-Grashoff, then you don't need to disconnect or disassemble, right? So no need to disconnect and reassemble, correct? So you can simply connect all the links, let's say above the line of frame, and then you can simply move all these links to acquire the mirror image configuration. So there is no need to disconnect and reassemble. So that's why we always say that there exists only one mode of assembly for the rockers, right? But for Grashoff's kinematic chain, this is not possible. For a Grashoff kinematic chain, you need to always disassemble and then reassemble, right? So in that case, we say that two modes of assembly or more than two modes of assembly is required, right? So let us stop here till this point. I think for today it is too much, right?
I have
Yeah. So any doubt?
I don't have a doubt. But can we associate the non-Grashoff kinematic inversion to the movement of a train's wheels, like the wheels which the train has? like both of the entire assembly rotates, and the mirror image is consistent in both the movement.
Can you repeat, miss? Your voice is very low. Can you repeat the question?
Just a second, sir. Sir, am I audible now?
Yeah, now it's audible.
Okay. Sir, I just had a I just associated the non-crash of the inversion to the movement of the wheels of a train. The train's wheels which moves rotates like when the train moves, because the assembly is constant, like it is consistent when it rotates around the point. The assembly is
Actually,
consistent. Like
to train wheels, I think yeah, I will come to that. But usually means in modern trains, these wheels, right? If you observe, means they are independent. Means they are connected through this maybe hub and axle arrangement. But if you talk of steam locomotives, right? So I will come to that steam locomotives. So they are generally all these wheels they were connected, right? But in modern trains, I don't think like okay any such connection exists, but it's still like I will look into this, means I will try to look into this, then maybe I will
yes, sir.
explain
Sir,
in more detail.
yes, sir. Just as you said, the locomotives, sir, I was talking about the conventional wheels which were first made,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
the
yeah.
newer
So they
ones.
are actually, you can model them as a 4 bar chain, but those are Grashoffs also, right? But they are exceptions. I will come to that. So the exception is that if you connect the links in a parallel way, right? So there you have this exception because in that case, what happens if you observe that the length of shortest and longest link, it becomes equal, not either greater or not either less than. It becomes equal to the sum of lengths of other two links. So that steam locomotive I will be coming. So those exceptions I will be discussing because today I could have discussed, but I think it would be too much for all of you. Okay, so before let's say ending the topic,
Sure, sir.
I just want to show you one animation, right? So just wait because showing that animation at this moment will be better. Later on, all these things they will skip from your mind. So let me first try to find out that animation. So is the screen visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now I am going to play this and watch very carefully. So this crank rocker, all this thing, it will become clear into your mind, right? So watch this animation very carefully. Okay. So can you just tell me which mechanism is this? This is crank rocker, double crank or double rocker? What is this?
Crank rocker, sir.
Right? So this is the shortest link, right? And the link adjacent to the shortest link is fixed. So this might be your shortest link, this blue one, right? And adjacent link is this one, right? So this is fixed in this case, if you observe. And then we are obtaining a crank rocker, C, right? So its application I will discuss. It has certain application, but many applications beside. But most of the applications, they are quite older. So what I observe here, see the coupler is also oscillating only. The coupler is not able to make a full rotation, right? Will it go to other one or not? Just wait. Let me fast forward it. I think he has shown only one, this one. Okay, so he is just showing crank rocker. Let me find some another. Okay, so I think till this video I will show you later. So right now I will try to actually search for some better videos. So basically they have shown only one type of linkage here. Okay, so if I found some better animation or something like that, so I will put it there. But the important point is these animations you can always search, right? It is all available on YouTube. But what is important is the concept. The concept you should know. So if anybody asks you Greshoff's law, then you should know that if the Grashof criteria is satisfied, then you will have at least one link revolving. So if anyone asks you like which links will be revolving, then you can say crank will revolve in two inversions. In one inversion, coupler will revolve, and in another inversion, again, both the cranks they are going to revolve. So these things it should be like too much clear into your mind, right? Okay. So any other doubt? Any other query?
Yes, sir. Just one doubt. What is the real life example of Greshoff's kinematic chain?
Yeah, so real life example actually I will show you maybe in the next session, because today's I think it will be too much. So real life example, this is one example. Let's say if what you are seeing here is the so what you are seeing here, if you observe, this is your coupled wheel locomotive, right? Steam locomotives, initially the wheels they were coupled in this way, right? So if you observe here, right? So now this real life example second is beam engine. So I will be discussing this in the next session, right? So what is beam engine? What is all this? Okay, one more thing, like if you wish to see my slides, right, then you have to download it. The point is like if you open it, somebody asks like this inking is not visible. So if you open it in Google Slides, then the inking will not be visible. Once you download all the presentation, then the inking will be visible. So just remember this. Okay. Okay, fine. Anything else? Okay, so shall I end the meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.